thought I'd make the first video a little bit about me. It's something which I've never really talked about on TikTok. I think mainly because you're restricted to 60 seconds, so it's quite a long story and I've not really felt like I wanted to split it up. I hate those like and comment for part 2 videos because you can never find part 2. So here's part 1 of one long video. I was not diagnosed as a child. Growing up, I was not diagnosed with autism as a child. Growing up, I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety states, cognitive decline was another thing I found on my medical records. And a lot of these things were all autistic traits and symptoms, but I grew up in the 80s and then there wasn't really that much understanding. In fact, the medical literature still considered people who were autistic, because it was known about, but not very well known, but they would be considered retarded. That was literally the language that was used in medical literature back then. So that was how my childhood was. It wasn't a pleasant childhood. I wasn't supported at school. I was put in remedial classes. Even though I was very bright, I really struggled with the social aspects of school. I did not have a good time at school. I was actually pulled out of school for a couple of years and home educated, then went back in to do my exams. All in all, my childhood was a pretty grim, depressing, anxious-ridden experience. And if anything, my experience as a child has really set the foundation for how I am as a parent now. You know, how I deal with Daisy and how I approach problems and how I try and show her empathy and compassion and understanding really is based on the fact that, well, I want to do it naturally, but a lot of the time in my mind, I'm thinking about how I wasn't shown that as a child. So wasn't diagnosed as a child, went through my early adult life with, you know, anybody who has autism can identify with this, I'm sure, but, you know, a big strain where social environments were concerned. I had, you know, real struggles with friendships. I found what I now understand that it was because of the difference between neurotypical and neurodiverse people. I found that the neurotypical people were very difficult to gel with. I never had any friends. I had and still to this day don't have any male friends. There's a history back from that on why, but generally neurotypical friendships are really hard to sustain, because for the most part, people who aren't neurodiverse find neurodiverse people can find them quite stressful and quite difficult to understand. And that's okay, you know, I accept that. I accept that I have unusual personality traits and quirks and idiosyncrasies, and it's difficult for people to understand that and gel with me because of that. Whereas a neurodiverse person would be like, oh yeah, I do that as well. You know, oh yeah, I need my own fork, or I need my own, you know, spot to sit and I can't sit anywhere else. And when there's understanding, this is why people in relationships, people you know, get together, because they identify with each other. They have similarity traits. They say opposites attract, but actually not really. It's normally people who have things in common that attract. So I went through my early adult life, not really understanding myself, not knowing why I was struggling with friendships, not knowing why I was stressed out by certain things and not by others, not knowing why I found real difficulty using the phone. All that kind of stuff didn't make any sense to me. Then in my 30s, it really went on that long. In my 30s, I went to see a doctor about anxiety. And unfortunately, the medical profession in the UK is geared towards, certainly where mental health concerned, is geared towards a quick, cheap fix. That's just how it is. If you found a different experience, that's brilliant. I'm not saying this is across the board, but generally speaking, a GP, if you go to a GP with anxiety, depression, they're going to say, right, I'll write you out a script for sertraline or citalopram, or, you know, any of the other SSRIs. That makes you feel better for a little bit, and then it starts to numb you, and then you start to feel like a different person, and it's not great. And that was the journey I went on. As I was taking this medication, something clicked in my head, and I can't to this day tell you what it was, but it made me do an online autism test. I can't remember why. I can't remember what cued me on to do it, spurred me on to do it. But I did an online autism test, and I can't remember the exact scoring system, but imagine it's, 0 to 50, 50 being extremely autistic, although we don't do levels, but 50 being definitely autistic, 0 being not autistic at all. I was scoring like 48, 47, 49 on these tests. And it made me think, I need to maybe speak to somebody about this, because all these tests are pointing towards the fact that I've got autism. So I did. I went back to my GP and I said, look, I was really open with him. I said, look, I think I've got autism. I think all these anxiety states and social problems and things like that, I think are because I've got autism. Is there anything you can do to help me? And he said, do the tests online. I said, I've already done them. He was like, great, we'll refer you to autism services. Now that took a long time. But in the defense of the NHS where I live, what they did is they did an intermediary intervention straight away. So they got me in mental health services, and they got me talking with people who were experts on autism, not the autism specific team to give a formal diagnosis. That came much, much later. But the medical, the mental health side of the support services. And they helped me immensely. They gave me counselling sessions and talking therapy and that kind of stuff. Some of it wasn't useful at all. Some of it was really annoying and frustrating, and I felt quite condescended by it. But some of it was really, really good. And I think more than anything, it helped me to identify with who I am. We always talk about autism being not an illness, but an identity, part of who you are. And that is very much me. And I've had this conversation with Daisy, my daughter, before about, would you take a pill that got rid of your autism? Would you take a pill that made you better? And the consensus is usually no. Because yes, there are a lot of things in autism which are debilitating. There's lots of things in autism which are frustrating and that you don't want. But I feel strongly that autism forms part of who I am. And I don't want to have a personality change. I don't want to turn into somebody that I'm not. So we would probably always say no to that. But what identifying helps you to do is it helps you to feel more normal. And what I mean by that is not neurotypical, but it makes you feel that there are other people or it makes you realize that there are other people who feel the same way as you. Fast forward a little bit, and I discovered online platforms like Twitter and YouTube and TikTok, where there's all these people who are suffering exactly the same as me. I was blown away. The first few videos I watched, the way that these people were explaining their life and explaining how they felt blew me away, absolutely blew me away. So that's where I am now. I'll rewind a little bit. I sort of started the online channels to reach out to people for my own benefit in some ways, to make me feel a little bit more like there were other people around me who felt the same way, but also because I felt like I really, really wanted to help. That's what this channel is going to be. It's going to be me talking about my experiences, both as somebody who has autism and a parent of somebody who has autism. It's quite a unique insight. I know certainly, I can avoid a lot of meltdowns with my daughter because I understand what the triggers are, so I can just avoid the triggers. And I find that I have an understanding of her feelings and behaviours that, pretty much nobody else around her has. So that's beneficial, definitely. So that's what this channel is going to be. It's going to be a support group. We're all going to chat. I am more than happy to answer any questions. If you want to put requests down in the comments for what kind of videos that you want, what kind of content that you want, I will more than happily do that. I'm not going to monetize this channel. I hate adverts. If there's any adverts that come up, nothing to do with me, I'm not being paid for these videos. I'd like this channel to be free, to be completely free. I may set up a little bit of a Patreon where you can, buy me a cup of coffee. If you want to, that's entirely optional. I have invested some money into this YouTube channel. I have been planning this for quite a while. I bought some proper editing software. I bought some lighting. As you can see, I've got acoustic tiles just to knock down the echo in this room because it was horrible. So, if I can make some of that investment back, that'd be great. But it's not a money-making scheme for me by any stretch of the imagination. It would just be to reclaim expenses in terms of how much the channels cost me to set up. So ask away, be open, be honest. The great thing is about YouTube is you can be anonymous. If you want to set up an account that doesn't identify you by your real name or identity or anything like that, and you want to ask me questions, go for it. Apologize that my throat is a little bit sketchy today, hence I'm keep drinking. I've got hay fever season already, so sorry about that. Enjoy your day. Speak soon.